Good morning. This morning we have gathered here to welcome the visit of German Aid to Tibetans delegation to Dharamshala. The association between the German aids to Tibetans and the Tibetan community in exile began in the early 1970s by one of our most steadfast supporters, Amma Weger, who began the work of providing an enormous support, particularly for the exiled Tibetan children's education and the old age homes. Today's delegation here is being led by Heide Meyer, who has been working with the German Aid to Tibetans since 1981 and is currently the president of the German Aid to Tibetans. She's being accompanied by the executive manager of German Aid to Tibetans, Senya, board member Christine, and sponsorship secretary Chimila. We will begin with the welcome address by Mrs. Tan Domala Shusur, Secretary of Department of Home.
Good morning, everyone, and warm welcome to the Honorable Sikyong Hall and respected colleagues and respected Chief Election Commissioner, secretaries of the departments, and my dear officers of the Central Tibetan Administration. Today, we are gathered here to welcome the board of the German Aid to Tibetans, an esteemed organization and a longtime friend of the exiled Tibetan community, who have stood by us for past 54 years, since 1968, when our exiled community was undergoing through the most difficult phases of resettlement in this foreign country. I, on behalf of the Central Tibetan Administration and the Tibetan community at large, would like to heartily welcome the president of the organization, Mrs. Madam Hattie Mayala, and Executive Manager, Mrs. Senya, Sponsorship Secretary, Mrs. Chimila, and respected board member, Mrs. Christine La. It is my honor to extend our greetings to all the dignitaries and delegates here on this special occasion, to express our gratitude to everyone involved with the German Aid to Tibetans in their unwavering support in the last more than 5 decades. We are thankful and happy that all of you are able to visit Dharamshala in person for this felicitation program. And we humbly urge you all to continue with our efforts to assisting the most vulnerable in our country and our community. With much support, we find our courage to continue with our struggle to resolve Tibet issue. Please, please put your hands together to our delegates from Germany. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
I would like to request Mr. Daud Sudimla, Additional Secretary of Department of Home, to introduce the German Aid to Tibetans.
Good morning. I would like to read out the brief background of the German aid to Tibetans. The German aid to Tibetan was founded in 1968 to Hamburg city in Deutschland, and since then it has been taking care of many thousand Tibetan refugees who have had to leave their homeland since the Chinese occupation. GAD focuses on the hardest hit section of the population to help, considering that the youngest and eldest are the most affected by such emergency situation. That is why GAD focuses their aid organization on Tibetan children, youth, and the elders. GAD closely interact with CTA and the community and try to understand if the aid is advantageously used and if more help is required to enable so that the objectives are being met. They regularly visit the project site with this objective, and the delegation is currently visiting for this purpose. Mrs. Heidi Mayer worked in the Hamburg GAD office since 1981 and later became the board member, and since 2009 she served as the president after late Amaweger's retirement. The support from GAD has enormously helped to build a better future for the Tibetan with aid to students' scholarship, directly help to old age people, towards agriculture development and other infrastructure development in the settlements. It is one of the major relief agencies supporting 1,000 Tibetans, young and old, monks and nuns, every year towards their welfare and education. GAD's humanitarian work has played an important role and helped contribute towards the sustenance of the Tibetan community in exile and leading to the preservation of Tibetan identity, religion, and culture. The Tibetan people remain indebted and grateful to GAD, particularly the present president, Mrs. Heidi Mayer, and former president, late Amaweger, for the tremendous help and efforts during these difficult times being faced by the Tibetan community. As on date, the German aid to Tibetan is supporting 1,472 children, 893 old age, 370 monks, 84 nuns, 34 children of Nguyenga school, which total 2,853. An average yearly financial help is about 1.1 million euro to 1.3 million euro, which are approximately 1.05 billion rupees. From 2009 to 2021, GAD has transferred funds for Tibetans about 17.23 million euros. From January to April 2022, the current year, the GAD has transferred 1.91 million euro, approximately 1.55 billion rupees towards various projects in different settlements. So I, on behalf of the Tibetan community and the Central Tibetan Administration, would like to thanks and grateful for the GAD organization. Thank you so much.
Next, I would request Honorable Sikyong to address the gathering, please.
다른 레제 데스 망아 배우스르시도 계속 캐니물에 가르치 데스 용어스르시 아무스네 좀베 갑리야 달리구나 자라 쉬우요나 마드치 패턴에 야고도 삼수 그래서 딩에네 나시 퉁지기 텐다 German aid to Tibetans ki hedimiye dan konzu leje sum pegiyes shini sumbe kable tidune shwe chungta ngansu digzu di sadene chik gyumjen chik ngansul shazachinge dige chadege yore ene hagodu German aid to Tibetans to wajina chikdong kubja chuchu repge ne chene chuni ta tandabadu dewe longopchu ngopshiringale nganzu chizolya roche debre ngumburgi chane tandadine chongbagi sumana 신체제 두신 차대요바다 미 장보르기 차네 다 숨도 맨식 이동 예열 하실이야 타버도 디나로네 인 갱고엔다 shwenge lubdu cholia charo dusun nang yu son zan tani Kurang gonglo ya tor pegi yore timbe son zan ta maumba yang khazus pe tu matu di shushing mare debe lo ni ngala pe chung yo mare timbe son zan tani de ani kurang dixulia ani chedo gi dini som tuna samche zombare ani hanga mancha jil ta na chipsi de jawa yebe lingu kha ma de chigi 지조 대된다 저와이 베기 리고 만샤칠 점니 주 Tibetans 대와 매와데 자원이네 말에 삼되게 요 대인도 그냥 삼로라 만샤칠 양대와 차대요리 아니 with these few Tibetan words just explaining as to how important German aid to Tibetans is to the Tibetan community since 1968 over the last 54 years. I was reminded of I think German aid to Tibetans' first association with the Central Tibetan Administration. I think Ama Vega also met with Rinpoche Rinpoche in Bir. And the initial idea was to also invite Rinpoche here at this felicitation ceremony so that he can also speak a little bit about his involvement with German aid to Tibetans in the early days, and later all the work of the German aid to Tibetans was transferred to the CTA, and a Home Department has become the nodal point of contact with the German aid to Tibetans, and also including Department of Education, Health, Religion and Culture, and many settlements that comes under the Home Department. As refugees in the initial stages when we came into exile in 1959, we were put up in two camps, Buxar and Misamari, and there was also another camp called Balukpong in eastern India. Before we were resettled, or we were put up in the foothills of Himalayas where the climatic conditions are more suitable to the Tibetans, since we had no skill whatsoever in any kind of work. The only thing we could do was hard labor, and our people were put up in the Himalayan region, in Chamba area, Darjeeling, Dalhousie area, Manali, Shimla, Bomdila area for road construction. And eventually Tibetans were moved to settlements. I think the first largest settlement was the place where I was born, Palekopi, where the first settlers came on December 16, 1960. Later on, now we are located in more than 10 different states and 2 union territories in 45 different communities. I was explaining to Hedi and her team about the challenges that we face now in the Tibetan community, not only the political side of our responsibility, but the social welfare angle to our fulfillment of our responsibilities. So that being the case, the sustainability of Tibetan settlements here are very much challenged, because more and more younger generation of Tibetans who can give birth and who can give labor are moving out of settlements, and there are very few opportunities for them to stay back in the settlement. Therefore, we have now a huge dispersal of the population in the diaspora community into the Western world. That poses serious problems for the continuation of the school system and the settlement system. Therefore, we have identified moving about 1,999 families who have come from late 80s or 90s or 2000s into India, excluding many of the people who are in working in institutions or enrolled in institutions like the monastic institutions, because they don't get these facilities. Other than that, we have collected a list of 1,999 families who has to be rehabilitated. That does not include the Tibetans who live on the border areas. Another 2,000 families that lives in Ladakh area, Ladakh nomadic areas, or north of Gangtok, or extreme northeast of India. So those challenges are still there, but we also take those challenges. An offshoot of those challenges is the opportunities of Tibetans being scattered in more than 20 different countries, speaking those languages, living in the country, understanding their system, to be able to be voluntary advocates for the Tibetans. And it's the endeavor of the 16th cabinet. Wherever we go, we feel it bounden, we feel it's our bounden duty to express our thanks and appreciation to any big or small organization that has stood with us over the last so many decades in supporting us in the preservation of our unique national identity, which is being threatened by Chinese government inside Tibet. I will not go into details as to all the policies of the Chinese government. You have your own experience of having started schools in Tibet, which is again facing serious threats. And I hope the initiatives that you have started inside Tibet will continue to sustain over the years. And your continued friendship and support for the Tibetan community here in exile will also continue. Today, along with President Hedy Meyer, you also have board member Christine. As Hedy says, she's on half leave, half job condition here in Dharamshala. Then you have two younger generation people who are coming up to help support German aid to Tibetans in carrying forward their duty. So one is Svenja Eckhorst. Svenja Eckhorst, she's the executive director, executive manager, and Chimilamla is from Pokhara area, coming from Tashipegi. Now she has assumed an important role of the sponsorship secretary within German aid to Tibetans. So it's very nice to see a Tibetan also being involved with the Germans in organizing this. You should understand that when we say German aid to Tibetans, it's a collection of various number of people representing different strata of German society that helps fund this organization that comes here. So as I always say, whatever money comes here is because of the hard work of the people who contributed, those who are contributing individually. And if it's coming from the government, it's coming from the taxes of the people of that nation. So we have to be very, very prudent and very, very diligent, and also very, very careful in using those funds, not wasting those funds, to avoid any kind of duplication. Therefore, for the next 3 years, we will be having more smart planning or advanced planning as one would see it. I think German aid to Tibetans will play a very important role. When funding comes from governments, there are always a lot of restrictions as to what it can be used for or what it cannot be used for. And there are certain areas which are out of their purview. Therefore, some aspects, even though some of the aspects of the funding are useful, it's not holistic in nature. It doesn't cover everything. So I make it a point, the 16th cabinet makes it a point to point out to the governments not to treat us like a developing country or a underdeveloping country, because there is no third way of income for the Central Tibetan Administration. Everybody says, okay, we'll do this for you, we'll do this for you, but these things can you not ask someone else? And I pointed to them that we don't have the third someone else. So any support has to be comprehensive. And the things that we are planning for the next 3 years will be like a huge jigsaw puzzle of needs of the community, whether it's to do with rehabilitation or education or culture or religion or health. Now we'll have to prioritize those needs, put price tags on all of those, and make sure that it's lined up in a manner that could be executed. And the money that comes from governments will fit in wherever the objectives are met, and the role of the German aid to Tibetans will be filling in a lot of those gaps in between those mosaics so that we get the complete picture of how we should be working in the next 3 years. So thank you very much for your presence here. Very much appreciated. 54 years in a human lifetime is also one full lifetime. You have been there for us. Through you, the German people have been there for us. Now we'll need to push the German government to do a little more. I did point out those facts to the German ambassador when I met him last time. And we'll be raising this again with the German government whenever we visit Germany in the times to come. So thank you very much again for all your services. We look forward to more future cooperation. Thank you.
I would like to request Honorable Sikyong to honor the guest with mementos. Thank you. May I request Ms. Heidi Meyer to address the gathering today?
Dear Honorable Sikyong, Mr. Pemba Tsering, thank you for the time you have given us today, and we could take time you can discuss the things you had before explained to the community here. And I wish you much strength and energy for the new office, and I wish you support not only of all Tibetans, but also from the Western world, especially from the governments. And that perhaps a dialogue can take place one day again with China. And as the GATT will continues to support the Tibetans in exile in the various departments and preservations of unique culture as much as possible as we did in the past. Dear Tibetan friends, and dear respected Kalons, secretaries of the departments and other dignitaries and all CTA staffs, on behalf of my team, I thank you very much for the warm welcome and look forward for the next busy days here in Dharamshala. During our visit to various departments, such as Department of Home, Education, Health, with whom we worked together for so many years, we will be able to discuss all running and outstanding projects of the different settlements all over India. Because of the pandemic, in many places, new problems arose, but together I feel that we could help in the most important cases which the different departments ask us for, as there were last year first equipment to fight against COVID-19 or to help for many families who had no income to live during the lockdown or the lack of income for the schools, for example, in Nepal. Since the settlement were built in the 1960s, There are now many repairs of houses and infrastructure. At the moment, the desire of built roads is overrunning us a little. For example, these are things we can now discuss during a visit here and thus make decisions more easily. I'm particularly pleased about the progress in the construction of the Organic Research and Training Center in Bailakupi. The expansion and training in organic farming is an important concern of me personally. I was able to explain this in an audience with His Holiness the Dalai Lama in the year of April 1917, and His Holiness confirmed this. The land that is suitable for cultivation is limited and must be optimal and contribute to healthy nutrition. At that time, I had suggested the education of agriculture and forestry and initially agreed to take over for the beginning the studies of 5 students. Unfortunately, there are hardly any applicants. Since last year, we have had the first student in agriculture. I'm very proud and happy with it because of that. My big request to all of you is to stand up for this education and make the importance for the future clear to the young students and to motivate them. As you know, our main concern is the education of children and the preservation of the Tibetan culture and religion. So we support the TCVs, Tibetan Home Foundation, Mussoorie, Sambota schools and other small schools. We will continue to see this as our most important task without forgetting the elderly. Today I would like to take the opportunity to personally introduce you to my team with whom you will be working in the future. Shimi has been working for us in Hamburg since 2009, when the office of Munich from Mrs. Vega was closed and we had to overtake all from there. As a family, she is familiar with all the work, mainly responsible for the sponsorships. Svenja has been with us since 2011 and is also entrusted with all. She has been appointed as a managing director and will take over my task. I am as president and all other board members are working voluntarily without payment. This is required by the Association Act of the country of Germany. So we have now appointed Svenja as executive manager. She, together with Shimi, will continue to lead German Aid to Tibetans when I retire for the reason of age. I will always remain connected to the Tibetan and to German Aid to Tibetans. And we have a new board member, Christine, who wants to get involved with the elderly. This will be a great support. You will surely meet our other board members when they travel to India. There are Dr. Detlef Reschke and Joachim Stelges. Both are married to a Tibetan woman. And Mailis Chevalier. Mailis has been involved in Nepal for many years already. I would like to thank all the staff and leaders for the good cooperation and hope that you will work just as well together with the young team. Thank you very much for this morning, and thank you.
May I ask Thirup Siringla, Joint Secretary of Department of Home, to deliver a vote of thanks?
It is my honor and privilege to give a word of thanks on this occasion to facilitators of German Aid to Tibetan delegations visiting to Dharamshala. We remain ever grateful for German Aid to Tibetan, who have been one of the oldest and long-time supporter of Tibetan. We have helped us face challenges of living in exile and overcoming great difficulties. I would like to extend our sincere thanks to our Secretary, Madam Ko Tsondamala, for her opening remark and welcome speech. Thanks to our Education Secretary, Department of Home, Gong Dawala, for his brief introduction for German to Tibetan and the program they have been supporting over the last 54 years. Our sincere thanks to Honorable Gong Sikyong Hall, sparing his valuable time to attend today's program and facilitate Mrs. Heidi Mayer, President, German to Tibetans, and the delegations as a token of love and gratitude on behalf of the entire communities. Also thanks to Gong Sikyong Hall for giving a keynote address on today's events. On behalf of the Central Tibetan Administrations, all the Tibetans living across the world, we like to extend our sincere thanks to Madam Heidi Mayer, Presidents, and giving valuable speech and ensuring us the continued support from the GAT for the Tibetan cause. I also would like to extend Mrs. Senja Ikos, Executive Manager, and Mrs. Chimila, Sponsorship Secretary, and Mrs. Kristen Zaliski, board members from German Institute Tibetans, who has very kindly accepted our invitation for this program, organized at the Sikyong Conference Hall in presence of Central Tibetan administrations and dignitaries and officials. Finally, we like to thank the German Institute Tibetan delegations, Honorable Gong Sikyong, Gong Kale, and Chairman of Public Service Commissions, and all the department secretaries and officials from Central Tibetan administrations to attend this special event to honor our friends from Germany, East Tibetans. Thank you all.
Thank you, Tundumla. We have now come to the end of this felicitation event. We would like to thank you all once again for joining us in expressing our gratitude to the German aides to Tibetans for their unwavering support for many years of our lives in exile. Thank you, everyone.